Imagine stepping into the most dazzling palace on earth, a masterpiece of gold and glass, only to be hit by a stench so foul it makes you physically gag. Welcome to Versailles in the 1600s, where ultimate luxury masked an unimaginable nightmare of filth. The Sun King's magnificent court, with its sprawling manicured gardens and breathtaking hall of mirrors, dazzles the eye. Courtiers draped in pristine silks, lace, and velvet roam the grounds, embodying the epicenter of European wealth and high fashion. Yet beneath this stunning facade lies a pungent, unhygienic reality, described by modern historians as a beautiful gilded cesspool. To truly grasp daily life at Versailles, one must understand the monumental architectural achievement that lacked modern plumbing or a sewage system. At its peak, the palace housed around 10,000 residents, aristocrats, visiting dignitaries, military officials, and an army of servants, all crammed into a single enclosed structure without flushing toilets. Imagine the chaos of 10,000 people, an environmental catastrophe unfolding within gilded walls. While higher-ranking nobles might have enjoyed a personal chamber pot, waste management was a grim affair. Servants emptied these pots, often tossing the contents out of windows, splashing waste into courtyards and gardens below. For the lesser courtiers and daily visitors, the situation was desperate. When nature called, they had no time or facilities to seek a designated area. The pristine corners, hidden alcoves, and echoing corridors of Versailles became makeshift latrines. It was common for finely dressed nobles to simply step behind a curtain, lift their skirts, or drop their breeches to relieve themselves right. Contemporary accounts from horrified visitors describe the suffocating stench of ammonia, decaying matter, and human waste seeped into the very stone and woodwork of the palace. In the intense summer heat, the odor intensified, the urine and feces baking upon the walkway. You could admire a priceless tapestry or a Renaissance masterpiece, only to realize you stood inches from a pile of fresh excrement. This was a world where a courtier's glittering, jewel-encrusted heels were just as likely to step in filth as to glide across polished ballroom floors. The sheer scale of the palace made cleaning nearly impossible. The odor of rot and waste became a fixture of royal life, embedded in the building itself. Even the king was accustomed to this foul air, viewing it as a normal aspect of existence. The glamorous illusion of perfection was built upon a sickening foundation. If the palace was a gilded toilet, one might assume the aristocrats kept themselves clean. However, the reality was quite the opposite. Driven by a bizarre medical paranoia, the 17th century believed water, especially hot water, was dangerous. Leading doctors advised against bathing, fearing it would invite deadly diseases. Full-body bathing was rare, actively avoided, and viewed as perilous. Even Louis XIV, the Sun King who dictated European fashion, reportedly took only a handful of baths in his life, and only under extreme duress. Instead of washing, the wealthy engaged in what they called dry washing, vigorously rubbing their skin with dry linen cloths to absorb sweat and impurities. Their cleanliness was judged not by how often they bathed, but by how many times they changed their expensive linen shirts. Beneath layers of fine fabric, courtiers harbored months of accumulated sweat, dead skin, and intense body odor. To mask the stench of thousands of unwashed bodies, residents of Versailles turned to overpowering fragrances, drenching themselves and their clothing in thick animal perfumes. These heavy scents didn't neutralize the odor. They mingled with it, creating a cloying mycosis that hung heavily in the air, often causing migraines among visitors. Yet the horror didn't stop there. The towering powdered wig, once a fashion statement to hide hair loss, became mandatory court attire. These wigs, made from horse and goat hair, were seldom washed. Instead, they were coated in animal fats and scented starch, creating a breeding ground for lice and fleas. Long-handled scratching sticks, made from silver and ivory, became essential tools for courtiers, desperately digging at their itchy scalps while maintaining elaborate hairstyles. Occasionally, wigs had to be sent to wig makers to be baked in hot ovens, exterminating the swarms of pests. Amid elegant dances and whispered romances, the relentless scratching, the heavy musk mixed with stale sweat, and the feeling of being hopelessly unclean persisted. The result of living in a crowded, feces-ridden palace with an aversion to water was a devastating cycle of disease. While courtiers obsessed over power and hierarchy, they were powerless against the microscopic enemies thriving in their hallways. Dysentery, typhoid, smallpox, and measles swept through the royal court with terrifying regularity. Even the royal family was not immune. Louis XIV lost several children and grandchildren to diseases thriving in these unsanitary conditions. When a noble fell ill, the 17th century medical treatments often proved more torturous than the diseases themselves. Physicians relied on the ancient theory of bodily humors, believing illness stemmed from internal imbalance. To cure wealthy patients, doctors prescribed bloodletting, draining pints of blood with sharp lancets and leeches, further weakening their compromised immune. Imagine an aristocrat lying in a silk-draped bed surrounded by priceless art, while a physician bleeds them into a silver bowl. If that failed, violent purgatives and enemas were used to expel fluids, a misguided attempt to flush out illness. Dental hygiene was another horror, as sugar was consumed in massive quantities by the elite, leading to rampant tooth decay. With no real dentistry, rotting teeth were yanked out without anesthesia, causing massive facial infections. Even Louis XIV suffered during a botched extraction, leaving a gaping hole in his palate. And yet, despite the rotting teeth, lice-infested wigs, suffocating stench, and shadow of agonizing death, the elaborate theater of Versailles continued. Courtiers powdered their pockmarked faces, drenched their bodies in heavy musk, and strode through feces-stained corridors as if walking on air. The Palace of Versailles stands as an architectural marvel, yet peering past the gold leaf reveals a profound historical irony. The absolute pinnacle of 17th century civilization, the most envied court in the world, is a magnificent facade. Beneath its splendor lies a squalid, pestilence-filled reality. The next time you watch a sweeping historical drama, where flawless complexions and pristine gowns reign, remember this hidden truth. True luxury isn't a crown or a palace. It's a flushing toilet and a hot shower, the simple comforts that elude those cloaked in opulence. The grandeur masks the struggle, a stark contrast to the lavish lives portrayed.